Hey, what is going on, Miami Dolphins fans? Welcome back to the Fins Up Network. It is Ben Morgan, and in today's video, going to continue to preview and prepare for Bills Week with my top three keys to victory in Sunday's game against those 2-0 Buffalo Bills. Battle of 2-0 teams, battle for sole possession of first place in the AFC East is on the line. It is going to be a fun game. It is likely going to be the Dolphins' toughest test so far. But before I jump into my three keys for victory, I want to hear yours. So drop your keys to victory in the comments below. And real quick before I get started, just like I've done the first 2 weeks, the final preview video, it's my preview and official score prediction that drops on Saturday morning. Once again, going to be taking viewer questions. So if you have a Dolphins Bills question that you would like answered in that video, go ahead, drop that question in the comments below as well. Let's get started with the keys to victory because the number one thing that I have is sell out against the pass. The Buffalo Bills don't run the ball. I mean, they do, but they don't want to. That is not who they are. Through 2 games, they have 49 rushing attempts, and 14 of them have come from quarterbacks. So that leaves 35 attempts for running backs. Mind you, that includes 2 games where they had a 21-point win and a 34-point win. This team should have a lot more rushing attempts, but they simply don't do it because they don't need to. They are so good at passing the ball, running to them. The importance of establishing a run, like what we think we want to do and what a lot of other NFL teams want to do, doesn't exist for the Buffalo Bills. So honestly, whatever Josh Boyer can do to try to mix up coverages, truly hone in against the pass, he honestly has to do, because the crazy thing is the strategy for the Bills really hasn't had any negative effects on them through 2 games. And look who they've played. They've played the Rams, who were last year's Super Bowl winner, and the Titans, who they lost to last year and was the AFC's #1 overall seed. In those 2 games, with this strategy, they have punted for a grand total of 3 times. To give you some perspective as to how very little that is, in the 2 games the Dolphins played against the Bills last year, we punted the ball 10 times. You can do the math on that. You can see how significant that is. So look, you're arguably going against the best team in the league. Super Bowl odds would say that as well. Against arguably the best quarterback in the league. MVP odds would tell you that as well. You got to try everything possible to take their calling away. And that means limiting the success that they have through the air, especially with that Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs connection, which has just been money for them literally ever since Diggs walked through the door. And I throw Stephon Diggs' name in there specifically because the numbers that I'm about to tell you are simply ridiculous. This year, Diggs accounts for 38% of Buffalo's completed passes, 44% of their total receiving yards, and 57% of their reception touchdowns. And yes, those numbers are a bit skewed because Gabe Davis missed last week's game, the Bills' #2 wide receiver. But come on, we need Xavier Howard more than we've ever needed Xavier Howard. He literally needs to hang out in Stephon Diggs' pocket as soon as that dude enters Hard Rock Stadium. And based on Wednesday's injury report as well, Xavier Howard was a DNP because of a groin injury. So that is something that we are going to need to pay mind to as the week continues. But let's jump into number 2. My number 2 is stay strong on the edges. And what I mean from that is we need damn good tackle play from Terron Edmunds, from Greg Little, because the Bills have 9 sacks through their first 2 games. And only 1.5 of those sacks came from an interior defensive lineman. That came from Jordan Phillips. If that name rings familiar, it's because he was drafted by and used to play for the Miami Dolphins. The rest of those sacks all came from edge rushers and linebackers. So now I talked about Armstead and Little, and I feel pretty comfortable with Armstead. We'll have to see how that injury comes because on that same injury report, he was a DNP with the toe. So we'll have to pay mind to that as well. But Greg Little is going to have to continue to live up to that stock up designation that I gave him in my Wednesday video, because you're looking at their edge rushers. They got Von Miller, Gregory Rousseau, and AJ Epinesa. Those are their primary pass rushers. So you got a Hall of Famer in Von, and the other two are young guys. But protecting Tua, much like they did in the second half of last week's game against the Ravens, is going to be super important against this Bills defense, which is very, very opportunistic. They already have 5 interceptions on the season, and a lot of that is because they get to the quarterback. They end up getting him off the spot. They throw the plays out of rhythm, force passes that the quarterback otherwise wouldn't throw, and they are very opportunistic. So if we want to have any chance whatsoever of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle turning it loose once again, if we're going to continue to have one of the league's top producing offenses, we're going to have to protect Tua from these edge rushers. Let's jump into my third and final one here, and that is be aware of Milano and Edmunds always. And those are the linebackers, Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmunds. This Bills defense is stacked. I believe that they are in the top 3, both offensively and defensively. Offensively, obviously, for yards for, defensively for yards against. And that defense is only going to get more stacked as the season continues, because Tre'Davious White is on the PUP list, much like Byron Jones is for us. So he'll be back potentially after week 4 as well. But man, this team has one of the best linebacker duos in the NFL, at least for my money. Those two are currently second and third on their team in total tackles. And look what they've added. Edmunds has added a sack, 2 tackles for losses, and a pass defended. Milano has added a tackle for a loss, 2 passes defended, and he had an interception return for a touchdown in last Monday's game against the Titans. No, it's not too often that I'm overly concerned about an opposing team's linebackers, but these two have proven and continued to be game changers for the Bills in the past, and they can absolutely ruin drives if you're not paying attention to them and if you're not keeping tabs on them and paying attention to what their responsibilities are. So super important that Miami is always aware of where these guys are. But that is what I have for my top 3. I want to hear yours as well. So like I said, drop those in the comments. Also, like I said in the beginning, if you want a Dolphins-Bills question answered in the final preview and prediction video, make sure that you are dropping that in the comments as well. I'll also make a post on my YouTube community page on Thursday. So if you missed this one, go ahead and drop your question there as well. But get subscribed if you haven't already. Turn on those notifications so that you are on top of the videos as soon as they are dropped. And until that prediction and preview video, Dolphins fans, fins up.